The cattle drive is an enduring symbol of the American West. The image of tough cowboys pushing huge herds of cows across the open range is stamped on our imaginations. But by the 21st century, with Western states growing and changing fast, most horseback cattle drives have been run off the range by suburban sprawl, government regulation, lower beef consumption, and the return of protected predators. But there's a group of stubborn men and women in Wyoming who every spring push thousands of cows along the same 70-mile route their ancestors pioneered 125 years ago. As we first reported last fall, this throwback to the Old West is called the Green River Drift, and it's the longest-running cattle drive left in America.
The story will continue in a moment.
Just after dawn one Saturday in June of 2021, I'm trying to help Wyoming rancher Albert Summers and his team move hundreds of cows, most of them mothers with new calves, in a cloud of dust toward high green pastures where they'll graze all summer.
And if you feel inclined, Bill, you can whistle, you can yell.
I can do anything to move these.
This is like cowboys therapy. You get to voice everything out.
Come on, Indy.
I do the best I can.
Come on, cows. Move, cows.
But it's not quite as good as little Shad Swain, the son of Albert's ranching partner, Ty.
Shad is 5 years old?
He is.
Shad, if you can do this, I can do this, okay?
Shad got to do it with a sour apple lollipop in his mouth. All of us, with the help of some fearless herding dogs, move cattle over hills, across creeks,
Move it, cows.
through shimmering groves of aspen, along what cowboys call driveways, and across highways north toward those distant mountains.
How long does it take you to get them to the summer feeding area?
So it takes about 13 days from when we start to when we get up there where we want to be. We travel up to about 60 to 70 miles. Hey, cow, hey, cow.
Albert Summers is one of 11 ranchers who work together to drive more than 7,000 head of cattle on the Green River Drift. Those 11 ranches all lie in Wyoming's Green River Valley, south of Jackson Hole. Here, the Wyoming Range is to the west, the Wind River Range is to the east. The valley between is part bone-dry high desert and verdant river drainage where Native Americans once hunted buffalo. Today, the Green River runs through Albert Summers' ranch.
And your family's been doing this how long?
My family's been doing this since about 1903.
Albert's neighbor, Jeannie Lockwood's family, has been at it even longer.
This was my granddad's ranch. He homesteaded this in 1889.
Her ranch is about 20 miles south of Albert Summers' place. We joined her on horseback before dawn the day she started moving her cattle north.
There's that sun. It's going to peek up over the hill.
Along the same path her family has trekked for 125 years.
So you're going to be doing this for the next 2 weeks?
Yes. Yeah.
Getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning?
Or 3 or 2:30.
Or 2:30.
Yeah.
Those early starts barely compare to what old-timers endured when cowboys stayed out under the stars all night and the sun all day until they got the herd to high pastures.
Well, I think we can go home. What do you think?
Today, they go home after each day's drive. The next morning, they trailer their horses back to where they'd left the cattle, round up those that have strayed, and move them out again before dawn. The old chuck wagon, it's been replaced by a cooler and the tailgate of a pickup truck.
But compared to what your grandfather did,
Our ancestors, yeah.
this is easy.
Yeah, we have it easy.
Only ranchers would call this easy. Driving cattle is hot, dusty, demanding.
and they'll be lucky to make a $50 profit per cow when they finally send them to market. Jeannie's daughter Haley and son-in-law France help wrangle the herd. Her husband Milford shuttles the horse trailers. They all left regular jobs and moved back to the ranch several years ago after Jeannie's brother, who had been running the place, died in an accident.
It takes all of us to do it, it seems like. So
Jeannie was a librarian.
So what is it about this place that makes you give up regular, normal American jobs and come back here to do this really hard work?
Well, first of all, it was home to me. And it was hard work for my parents. And I know it was hard work for my grandparents. And I just couldn't see letting it go. Labor of love, it's called. Yeah.
Where's the emphasis, labor or love?
Love.
Love might sustain the Green River drift, but it was born in crisis.
The winter of 1889-90 is really what started the drift.
Clint Gilchrist is an historian who grew up in this valley and has written about that harsh winter.
And it killed off the vast majority of the cattle herds that were here because they weren't prepared for a bad winter. Nobody had prepared for a bad winter.
White settlers were not prepared. Native tribes, which the U.S. government drove off the land to make room for homesteaders, knew that winters in the Green River Valley could be merciless.
The Shoshone Indians and the Crow Indians were one of the dominant tribes in these areas. And they didn't winter here. They wintered over on the other side of the mountains where it was, less elevation.
After that brutal winter, ranchers realized they had to move their cattle out of the valley long enough to grow a crop of hay.
So while the cattle are up in the uplands, you're able to grow hay.
Right.
And that feeds them all winter long.
Right. And so that was the genesis of what we call the drift.
The drift, Albert Summers says, because when the first fall frost chills the mountains, the cows instinctively head for home.
Just on their own, turn around and start coming back.
Turn around and start. We open gates.
Drift back.
And they drift back. In the spring, we drive them. In the fall, they drift.
When the drift began 125 years ago, there were no regulations, no subdivisions, just wide open range.
Hey, 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 hey!
Now, ranchers drive their cattle to U.S. Forest Service land,
The largest grazing allotment in the country, 127,000 acres of the Bridger Teton National Forest.
Last summer, they paid the federal government $1.35 a month for every cow and her calf.
Murdoch! Summers! Price! Murdoch!
How much each rancher will owe is tallied at a place called the Counting Gate.
Summers! Summers!
It's Jamie Burgess's job to read brands or ear tags and call out which cows belong to which ranch.
Summers! Price! Price!
While his wife Rita adds up the totals. When the cows finally reach mountain pastures, they're handed off to range riders.
Bring them.
Like Brittany Heseltine, whose job is to watch over them all summer.
And you're up here by yourself?
Yes. Just me, my horses, my 3 dogs, and a cat.
How long altogether?
It'll be about 5 months.
Every day for those 5 months, Brittany is out at dawn to check on the 600 or so cattle in her care.
First thing in the morning, you come out on a rise, and especially in the fall, the elk are bugling and just talking to each other.
Brittany earned her degree in veterinary science in 2019. This was her 3rd summer as a range rider.
It's really hard work. What's the attraction? What's the draw?
Something about it speaks to my soul. I really can't describe what, but all winter long, I'm like, oh, a couple months more, and then I'll be up at home.
Her home for the summer was a small trailer in an isolated camp, off the grid. No running water, no cell service. At the start of last summer, 4 of the 5 drift range riders were women.
You told us that you thought women made the best range riders. Why would that be?
They're hard workers. And I can't say that they're, the men aren't good, but the women don't go to town and as much as some of the men kind of have a tendency to.
Visit the tavern?
Yeah, they'll go on the other side of the mountain.
So what happened to the cowboys?
I don't know, maybe they're just not cut out for it.
There's beauty up here, and danger too. Since listed as endangered species, wolf and grizzly bear populations have exploded in these mountains. Brittany keeps track of the calves they kill.
If it was actually killed by a predator, then there will be bruising on the hide on the inside, and it's very obvious.
Like last year we lost 24 calves, didn't come home.
Now we lose between 10 and 15% of our calves.
It sounds like a lot.
It's a lot. It would break us if it weren't for a compensation program by the Wyoming Game and Fish Department.
So you get paid for every animal you lose?
We do.
Predators aren't the only threat to these ranchers. A growing chorus of critics argue cattle shouldn't graze on public lands at all. Consumption of beef is declining, and so is the number of ranches on the drift. There were more than 20 in the early 1990s. Today, just 11. The Green River Drift is so iconic that the cattle drive has earned a spot on the National Register of Historic Places. These remaining ranchers are determined to see that it's not just relegated to history books.
So what does it mean to you to be doing what your father and your grandfather did on the same land?
That's hard to talk about. It means a lot. It means a lot.
Albert Summers has no children, so to preserve this land and its tradition, he's set up what's called a conservation easement. Preservationists have paid him to agree that his ranch will never be developed or subdivided, and to allow the public to use the land for recreation. That agreement will also apply to his partner, Ty Swain, as he takes over, and to his son, Shad, when and if he picks up the reins.
So with the conservation easement, this land will not change. It will stay the same.
It will stay the same. Well, no land stays the same, but this land will not be developed. And I will go to my grave peacefully with that knowledge, but just not tomorrow.
Many traditions have left their mark on this land. Native Americans were forced to give way to fur traders, pioneers, and homesteaders. Today, it's the cowboy way of life that is fighting to hold on.
Oh, yeah!
It's tied every year. I mean, we're down to the last dime at the end of the year.
It sounds like you're not in it for the money.
No, sir. No, we're not. And if somebody says, you're a rich rancher, only rich in the fact that we get to do what we do and we live where we live. And we get to see the sun come up over those mountains. That's the rich part of this job. It's not the money.
Jeannie Lockwood and her family are driving their cattle on the drift again this summer. So is Albert Summers, though after 31 years in charge of the drive, he's handed that responsibility off to someone else. And Brittany Hazeltine, the young woman we met up in the high country, she's also back in the saddle this summer. And this year, she was put in charge of hiring all the other range riders.